A storm here not long ago killed thousands of people. Not hundreds, but thousands. I called a friend in Pennsylvania and asked, "Jack, how many people died in the storm down here?" The storm happened not long ago. The news is so unbelievable that it's shocking everyone in the Mountain Men group. It's all about Eustace Conway again. The man who built his life around being independent and being close to nature. Now, though, it's not about how good he is at being in the wild. The people who were looking into his Turtle Island preserve found something in his old barn that has fans and federal agents alike asking the same question. What did Eustace keep secret all these years? Witnesses say it sounds like something from a mystery book. There were secret rooms, sealed boxes, and something that made the police call for help right away. Return. Watch out, because what's inside that barn might change everything we thought we knew about the Mountain Man. This story is just getting started, so don't forget to like, follow, and turn on notifications. Eustace Conway's barn stood silently on the edge of Turtle Island Preserve for many years. It looked like a simple building made from hand-honed logs and worn-out wood. People who saw it thought it was part of the Mountain Man's self-sufficient paradise. It was where he kept his tools, food, and memories of living off the grid. But people who knew Conway well always felt like there was more to it than that. It wasn't just storage in the barn. Eustace watched over that area like a castle because it was holy ground. People in the area often made fun of him that he used it more like a museum than a workshop and told people they couldn't go inside unless he gave them permission. What happened next was even scarier because of the secret. Early reports said that the finding started with a simple check for safety. After recent storms destroyed some of Turtle Island, county workers were sent to check on the old buildings to make sure they were still safe. When they got to the barn, it was locked with heavier iron locks than are usually used for tools or animals. After several failed efforts to reach Eustace, the team went ahead and entered while being watched by local authorities. As soon as they got inside, the mood changed. There was a strong smell of old woods and oil in the air, but there was something else. Something metallic and slightly chemical, and unlikely to be sterile. Along the walls were neatly stacked boxes with labels on them. Each one was dusty and sealed with old wax. It wasn't until one of the inspectors kicked a loose floorboard by mistake that the real secret came out. There was a narrow wooden hatch under the planks that was hard to see from above. When it was pushed open, a stairway went down into the dark. The detectives thought for a moment and then shined their flashlights into the hole. They got chills when they saw rows of shelves full of glass jars, rusty instruments, and books wrapped in animal hide. Someone had been working down there, carefully writing down information that was meant to be kept from view. The team immediately called the police in the area. When asked about it later, one of the first rescuers is said to have said, "It didn't feel like we were in a barn anymore. It felt like stepping into someone's secret world." The area was quickly cordoned off and everyone was told to stay back while the contents were inspected. At that point, Eustace showed up. What people saw said he didn't look scared or shocked. Instead, he seemed unhappy. He was said to have said something under his breath. This wasn't meant to be found yet. The government won't say what it is yet about what was found below the barn. But people who know Eustace Conway well say it's unlike anything else they've ever seen. As someone whose life has been all about being simple, this new layer of mystery makes me think of something much more complicated and maybe even dangerous. When the inspectors went down into the dark space below Eustace, they thought they might find old farming tools or some long-lost antiques in Conway's barn. What they found instead looked more like a private archive, an underground vault that had been carefully organized and kept safe. The air was thick with dust and had a faint smell of formaldehyde. The small room was full of rows of shelves, and each one held dozens of glass jars. Things that were hard to understand were in the jars. Animal innards, feathers, bones, and even strange plant parts that seemed to glow slightly when lit by a flashlight were found. There were hand-bound notebooks sealed in wax next to them. The titles of each one were mysterious, with words like cycle study, reversion data, and Project Living Legacy. Investigators said it didn't look like the work of a hunter, but rather a field expert, someone who is crazy about making lists of everything in nature. On an old wooden, on the table were a number of tools, including scalpels, magnifying glasses, syringes, and what looked like homemade telescopes made from old glass. A few of the metal devices were many years old. Others looked like they were brand new. The person who worked here not long ago. The boxes stacked against the back wall were even stranger. Some had worn out U.S. Forestry Service marks on them. Some of them had serial numbers that started with Fed or Bio, which made me think they were once part of a government project. When one box was opened, it revealed reels of film that were each marked with notes written by hand in Eustace's unique handwriting. The title of one of them said, Cycle 19, Observations of Conscious Adaptation. The government wouldn't say what was on the tapes, but a source who did not want to be named said that what they saw shouldn't have happened. Exist. Early analyses showed that the journals had drawings of the human body mixed in with models of animal nervous systems. This suggested that they were used to study the similarities between humans and animals. On the pages, there were notes and studies about endurance and how the body adjusts to being hungry, alone, and cold. Some items were signed by EC and had dates as recent as 2019. Some didn't have any signatures at all, making them look like they were written by someone else. In one part of the room, there was an old chest full of bones, some of which were clearly human and some of which were clearly animal. The question of whether they are ancient artifacts or something more modern is still being looked into. When asked, Eustace didn't say anything. At the scene, people who saw him say he stood at the top of the stairs and looked at the police with he was calmly defiant and said only one word before leaving. They're not ready to see what I've seen. Just that line has led to a lot of debate. What did he mean when he said they? What person did he mean? What kind of finding would make Eustace Conway, who is known for being honest and trustworthy, risk everything to keep it a secret? However, the truth is, one thing is for sure. The barn was not at all a place to store things. It looked like a vault, and what was inside could be the most shocking thing Eustace has ever learned. Next morning, Turtle Island Preserve didn't look like a quiet farm anymore. Instead, it looked more like a locked-down crime scene. There was yellow tape around the barn, police cars on the dirt road, and reporters, gathered at the edge of the land, eager to find out what was going on. They were all over Eustace Conway's refuge, which was his life's work for the first time in years. They didn't understand his world. Inside the barn, detectives carefully listed everything they found below ground. Each item was written down and sealed as proof. There was tension in the air. Officers in the area said in whispers that the whole thing looked like it belonged in a government operation and not a small-town investigation. It wasn't just what they found that they couldn't understand. That's why it was there. What was Eustace? A man who lived a simple and natural life, doing with things that looked like they were left over from secret research. The crowd was quiet when Eustace finally spoke. He stayed calm and didn't say that he didn't own the things. He said that everything in that barn was put there on purpose. The ground hides things we don't want to see. I only kept them safe. That comment didn't answer all the questions it brought up. What kinds of facts did he mean? When reporters asked him more about the boxes with government codes on them, Eustace wouldn't say anything more. He told me that those marks don't belong to me. They are part of history. He didn't say anything else and just walked away, which shocked the police. Several agencies, including environmental and historical protection officials, are said to have joined the case in the hours that followed. Leaks said that early research showed that some of the artifacts were from before Eustace owned the land, possibly decades ago. Could he have found something while growing his territory and decided to keep it secret instead of telling anyone? His followers say he was just protecting finds that people today would use or destroy. But doubters say that his actions showed signs of secrecy that were almost paranoid. In the past few years, his friends said he was so focused that it was almost like an obsession. He often stayed in the barn until late at night. By noon, online reports were going crazy. There have been claims that biological studies, ancient remains, and even secret artifacts are buried under Turtle Island. None of it was proven, but there was one fact that could not be argued with. The federal government now had the proof that was taken from Eustace Conway's barn. His picture of a calm, wise hermit living in the Appalachians had been broken. The man,